Hi, this is Danae, and today's video is all about how to practice your instrument slowly in a way that it's going to benefit you the most. Practicing slowly is an incredibly important exercise at all levels of piano practice or any instrument for that matter. Sometimes people think that practicing slowly is only for beginners or when you're starting out a new piece and you have to learn it, and that once you know the piece or once you've reached a certain level on your instrument, you don't need to practice slowly anymore. This is a complete myth. Practicing slowly is very beneficial at all stages, and professional musicians practice slowly all the time. Contrary to intuition, slow practice actually is not easy at all, and it requires a lot of concentration and focus and discipline and attention, and at the same time it can be such a powerful tool for your practice and can be something that ensures a much faster and bigger progress for you. So let's start out by talking about when to practice slowly. Of course, when you're starting a new piece, you're probably going to start practicing it slowly, learning the music, checking out all the hard technical passages. But then once you've reached a certain level, maybe even played it in a concert, slow practice can be very beneficial for just maintaining the piece and maintaining that level and feeling comfortable with it. If you're just playing through it quickly, it's not always very helpful, even if you can already play it. A very famous account of slow practice actually is something that a student of Rachmaninoff wrote about. And he said that he arrived at his house for a lesson and he heard Rachmaninoff practicing. And he was practicing Chopin's Etude in thirds at such a slow speed that the student didn't even recognize the piece at first. Because slow practice actually takes a lot of patience and discipline. It's not that easy. And this is a good example of a pianist who obviously had mastered his technique to the fullest and used slow practice to just maintain it and to really secure each and every note and have his fingers know where they are going to go when he plays it at that incredible fast tempo in the end. Now, we talked about maintaining the piece with slow practice. However, when you are preparing it and trying to get to the final tempo and you're not quite there yet, let's say you're somewhere in between having learned the notes but not yet at the end speed that you want to play it at, slow practice can be very helpful when you end the day with a slow run through. Let's say you're in that stage between you've already learned the music, but you're not quite at that final speed yet. And you're practicing a hard passage, you've practiced it with all kinds of exercises, you're trying to get to that speed, and you've done your practice day. Of course, there probably still are a couple of mistakes. It is incredibly powerful if you end that practice day with a slow run through of that passage, because that gives your mind the chance to get that all in order again. You end the day on a very positive, clear note. Your fingers know where to go and you end it with all the right notes. Let's say no bad habits that might happen through playing it at a speed that you're not completely ready for yet. And I would definitely recommend ending a practice day when you're building up speed with a slow run through of the technical passages. There actually also was a study that was done where students were handed out a technical passage to learn within 2 days, and they had the evening to practice and the morning, and then they were supposed to play it. They were recorded while practicing, and the study found that the students that ended the evening session, the practice session, with a slow run through, on the next day played significantly less wrong notes than the students that ended it on a fast note and that were in general just playing through it fast. The students that ended it with a slow run through just gave their mind the chance to process it and were ahead of the other students on the next day. Now, once you've reached your final tempo, you can play the piece and you're also maintaining it very well. Slow practice can be very helpful to see whether there are any bad habits that you might have picked up and to erase those, especially when you're playing a piece for a longer amount of time. So let's say you've already played it in a couple of concerts or competitions or exams and you feel comfortable in general, but when you don't practice a piece in detail anymore and just play it, very often bad habits start creeping in. For example, for me, a bad habit is that I might tense up and I stop remembering to loosen up at certain difficult passages, or maybe a certain posture, shoulders up, something like that. Or it might be that you're rushing in a certain passage, or there's some weird accent that has started happening in the passage. So any bad habit that you might have picked up is something that you can easily check when you do a slow run through. When I feel that something is not quite working anymore, I just take a step back, play it slowly, and usually when I play it slowly, I see, oh right, that's what I'm doing. I'm rushing here, or I'm playing an accent here. And then in the slow practice, you erase that, and then you go back to the tempo. So basically, for me, slow practice is a sort of reset button, a level of practice where you can erase bad habits, instill new good habits, in a way clean out all the mistakes, all the bad habits, and refresh the piece and feel comfortable again. It also is a good way to test whether you have mastered a certain passage or a certain piece. So if you feel that you're already pretty advanced with it and feeling comfortable, try playing it slowly. That's similar to what I said before, to see if there is any little mistake that you might be overhearing when playing it fast. The next tip I've mentioned before in my video about how to memorize music easily, but playing your instrument or playing the piano slowly is one of the best ways to memorize a piece. When you can play it by heart slowly, it means that you really consciously know the music, you know the harmonies, you know the line of the melody, you know all the patterns that you need to know, and you're not just playing it from muscle memory. So definitely, if you are feeling not very secure with memorizing the piece that you want to play by heart, practice it slowly and play through it slowly by heart, and then you will definitely feel more secure when playing it by heart on stage. Contrary to intuition, it is actually not easy to play a passage slowly. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of discipline, and sometimes it is much easier to somehow get into a middle tempo or even the fast tempo where your muscles already feel comfortable because that's the movement that they've been doing the most. Whereas playing it slowly takes a lot more effort, but will in the end be more beneficial to you as well. Slow practice can be very helpful to improve accuracy and clarity in a fast passage, and also to improve your posture, your hand position, your arm posture, your general body posture. But for that to happen, you definitely have to make sure that when you're practicing slowly, your mind is completely focused on the music. Because very often when we're practicing slowly, our mind starts to wander, and then that actually defeats the purpose. The whole idea is that you're incredibly focused on that slow practice, and that way instill the new positive habits and improve certain mistakes that you're making with the slow practice. This is why I say it takes a lot of discipline and patience, and actually is not that easy. Now, one important question that comes to mind is, how slow is slow? I think that there are different levels of slow practice. For sure, I would say that the phrasing should still be there, so you shouldn't play slow in a way that you don't feel where the melody is supposed to go and you don't feel the same motions. So the music and the character should be there, but you should definitely be able to apply the phrasing and the character to the slower tempo. For me, I think a good starting point would be about half tempo. That's a good place to start. However, if you're doing what I said about maintaining the piece and playing it extremely slowly, you might even go under that. The story that I told before about Rachmaninoff's student, I would say that he was probably way below half tempo when he was practicing that Chopin etude for someone not to even recognize the piece. So it varies a lot, but I would definitely recommend half tempo as a very average mark, but you'll have to see and try and experiment a little bit what helps you the most. Another interesting thing that I have heard from a lot of people is the 80-20 rule. Basically what that rule says is that you should spend 80% of your time on 20% of the piece, because obviously in one piece there are much harder bits and much easier bits, and the whole idea is to practice in a productive way and therefore spend and focus the bigger amount of your time on those hardest bits directly instead of just powering through the piece. So the 80-20 rule basically says focus and invest time in practicing the hard bits slowly, and then the rest of the piece is going to come together naturally instead of just powering through the entire piece again and again and again, because you're going to be much more productive if you apply this 80-20 rule. And before I end this video on all the benefits of slow practice, I also want to mention one thing about when not to practice slowly. Because if you want to increase the speed of a certain passage and you have already secured the passage slowly, your muscles, fingers are in place, you're feeling comfortable, and you just want to get faster, actually then you should not be practicing slowly, but obviously increasing the speed. And then once you've come to that next level and are maintaining that level, of course, then the slow practice again is very helpful. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please leave it a like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye!